Hello and welcome to the second tutorial regarding object-oriented programming with Python. In the previous tutorial, we went through the process of creating a class student as well as creating two instances of that class, student1 and student2. We also did create a very simple method that allows the students to introduce themselves. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to cover class and static methods, and we will see how they differ from the ones that we already have used in the previous tutorial. Now, our instance student had name, age, and gender as attributes. Now let's imagine that we would like to have another one, tuition. We know that a tuition can be full, a student can have half tuition or no tuition at all. So we know that there are three basically variances of this attribute that a student might have. And let's say that a full tuition is equal to 10,000, then a half tuition is equal to 5,000, and of course no tuition is equal to 0. Now, if we have two students, and for example, the first one has 10,000, which means a full tuition, and the second one has 5,000, which means a half tuition, this is it. We need to just specify that as a separate attributes and adjust our initialize function. Self.tuition is equal to tuition. But if we have thousands of students, we would still be able to do the same, and that's fine. But if the school decides to change the tuition amount, well, that it would be much more difficult for us to adjust the script because we have to go through all of these instances and adjust the attribute tuition. And this is an example of something that all the students share to some extent, because the name is something that is related to the instance. The age, again, is related to the instance, and so is the gender. These things, of course, do change, but not at the same time for all the students. However, tuition, if it is changed by the school, if they increase or decrease it, it would impact all of the students, which means this is something that is related to the class. And we can have, for example, a separate variable, full tuition, which would be equal to, in this case, 10,000, and that we can somehow relate to our instances. And how do we do that? Well, here we would not specify full tuition or half tuition, although that is possible, but you might have, for example, full, half, or let's say we have another student with no tuition. So student 3 would have no tuition at all. Then, of course, we can access every student and this attribute, but we would not have the amount. So we might have another method, which would be tuition amount, again self, because it's related to the instance, and it would be basically if self.tuition is equal to full, then we would like to return what we would like to return is basically out of the class student full tuition. So student.full tuition. If self.tuition is equal to half, then we would like to return student.full tuition divided by 2. And I'm going to convert this to integer, because I think we might get a float, which means a decimal of 0. So to avoid that, I'm going to convert to integer. And if that's not the case, so if a student has no full or half tuition, which means the student has no tuition, we would like to return 0. So let's try and print this part out. So let's say student1 dot tuition amount, and we can do the same for our second and third instance of student 2 and 3. Now we get, okay, I'll remove this print statement from the previous tutorial. So we have 10, 5, and 0, which is what we actually expected. Now, for example, the school decided to change this tuition amount to 12,000. Now, how do you do that? Of course, you can just change this variable, but as we're learning from class methods, I'm going to create a class method, which would allow us to change that amount. Now, in these three methods created before, there was always this self attribute, which means it was related to the instance. Now, the class method means this method will change something regarding the class, not the instance. So we might have define change tuition as a separate method, and here it would not take self, it would take CLS. I can't use class because it means something else in Python, so CLS, and then the attribute that we need to have is the new tuition amount, so amount. Then CLS dot full tuition would be equal to the amount that we specify. Oh, here I need like this. All right, now what we can do is we can run this method. So student dot full, it would be change tuition, and we want to change that to, let's say, 12,000. And then we're going to print again the tuitions for every student after the full tuition amount has changed. And as you can see, it was 10,000, 5,000 and 0, and now it's 12,600 and 0. And now if you have 100 or 1,000 of students, this is a very easy way to adjust it for all. Now the last part that I want to cover in this tutorial is a static method. So in these first three methods we had an example of methods related to the instance. The class method is related to the class. And what is the static method related to? Well, nothing at all. That is actually, it might sound strange, but that is actually true. So I'm going to define a check weather method, which would take our argument regarding the weather, and we would say if the weather is equal to sunny, then we want to return that is a very nice weather. If that's not the case, we would like to return that is not so nice weather, and then set face. So at the end I can have student dot, so the class student dot check weather, that is the method, and let's say that it is sunny. And if I run this, oh, I need to print this as well, so print the outcome. You will notice that I get that is a very nice weather. So this is a static method, and as you can see, it has nothing to do with the class nor with the instance. And this add class method or add static method are just decorators, and the script would run without them as well, but it's good to know that they are related to the class or they're just static. And that would be all regarding this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Feel free to subscribe for more Python related videos, and I will see you in the next one.